Well, welcome to the Just Jim radio show. Another beautiful day in paradise, sharing insight and inspiration, information. Oh, having a little bit of fun and having conversations that'll stimulate your awareness, your consciousness, your awakening, and just make your day a little bit better, your life a little bit better. Know that we're always here to support you in whatever way we can, and we're always eager to have somebody interesting and exciting on our show. Today we've got Leonard here with us. Sean is a very close brother-like friend to me. Very grateful to have him here. And he practices acupuncture and energetic healing and is the owner and the operator of 360 Degree Wellness in Sarasota. A martial arts practitioner with over 25 years experience. He's the creator of Alchemy Tai Chi and Qigong. Alchemy Qigong is a system which combines East Asian healing wisdom with a Taoist energy practices to achieve spiritual transformation on a physical level. He is the author of 2 books and the creator of Quantum Potential's Intuitive Transformation System. Good morning. How are you doing, Sean?
Good morning, Jim. Thanks very much for having me on today.
Oh, glad to have you. That's a mouthful, all of what you've created and written and have brought into the world as part of your expression. That's quite impressive and unique too.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, it's always great to have people you know and are close to with you, but we're here to talk a little bit about spiritual transformation and about how to align with spirit. The title of our topic today of our show. Uh-huh. So, can you define spiritual transformation for me and how it pertains to aligning to spirit?
Yeah, sure. Spiritual transformation is really, it comes from the understanding that none of us on our own is necessarily complete or able to reference all of the points of perspective that we need in order to get through the challenges that confront us on a daily basis. And so the idea of spiritual transformation is just simply the idea that when we run into an obstacle, we reach a point where we feel lost or disconnected, that there are ways to connect, to find answers which go beyond our own intellect, they go beyond our own experience. And spirit is a point of influence that we can connect with, where we can overcome things that are beyond what our mind or our emotions or even our own personal experience can inform us on.
Wow, that's a lot to consider. I guess we're all dealing with whatever's going on in our lives, good, bad, or indifferent, and this is an opportunity to utilize a system that you're speaking about to be able to get in alignment with it and to receive the inspiration or allow spirit into our lives that we really need. What does it mean to align with spirit?
Well, I take alignment. Alignment has a very physical connotation, and so I would say that I do honor that connotation in that oftentimes we use the body, and our body is sort of a reflection of our mind. Our body is a reflection of our thoughts and our feelings, and so sometimes we actually forget to honor our body. And so through the active awareness of posture, we can literally bring ourselves into a point where all of our attention, not just our physical attention, but all of our attention is centered on this higher perspective. And so in a physical sense, we're looking to find support within our body at every level. So maybe we're very smart, we're very intellectual, and we always have the right mental answer for the things that we encounter, or we're very emotionally savvy and we always know how to kind of feel our way through experiences. But there are times that things can't be solved mentally, they can't be solved emotionally. And when we can bring ourselves into alignment, we're talking about aligning ourselves both physically, so allowing the posture of our body to support optimum blood flow, but also to maintain a perspective which keeps us rooted to the earth and keeps us connected to the sky. But also mentally, it keeps us on focus. From an emotional perspective, we bring more consciousness, more awareness into our breath. So rather than holding our breath when we're encountering a challenge, we actually breathe fully and we breathe into what's going on. And then from the fourth perspective of spirit, we're calling on, or we're summoning something which is beyond us, but also at the same time within the realm of our experience. And an example of that would be, what does it feel like to bring sunlight into your brain? What does it feel like to bring sunlight into your bones? These are things that are technically somewhat impossible, and yet when we go through an alignment process, we can easily bring these qualities together. And with the fusion of body posture, correct breath, mental focus, and connection to these higher perspectives, these higher frequencies of energy, we can achieve pretty amazing transformation.
Well, it sounds a great deal like my approach of looking at how we can take care of our physical body with all the ideas of diet and exercise. Yours using posture and the way that you aligned yourself physically. And then, of course, we're not just our body. We're obviously our feelings and our emotions that are going on all the time, being in touch with them. So often in meditation, there's a focus on the breath as a part of the meditative process. And if we can bring our attention to our feelings, and we know how we're feeling, we can begin to understand our thoughts, focused vision with the mind, like you were speaking about, and be aware of and be in touch with these aspects of our really human self, the physical, the feelings, the thoughts. And as you're talking about that higher perspective or higher aspect of ourselves, for me, it's like being in touch with your awareness of your consciousness, of who you are, this higher aspect of your spirit, of your connection to source. And so this is a system that allows for you to experience these various physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual parts of ourselves in action, in motion, and in part of the world that you're living in. It sounds like it's a pretty powerful system that you're working with there. I understand consistency is really important in being able to bring this kind of alignment into our being in alignment with spirit.
Yeah, well, that's for certain. Consistency is just like, say, you're learning to play the piano, right? You won't become a concert pianist if you only practice once every blue moon. Same idea that these transformations, if we're going to use that term, of actually being able to move through these difficult or challenging circumstances and feel not just feel a mental relief, not just feel an emotional relief, but actually feel physically the shifting, almost like tectonic plates. Or an image that is very powerful for me is like clouds parting. Oftentimes, challenges feel like a fog, a heavy fog that weighs upon the chest or weighs upon the body and holds us down. And through the process of alignment, just simply, you mentioned breath, really being able to breathe right into that fog, breathe right through that fog, and again, spirit coming through like the sun. It has no choice but to transform that fog.
Oh, and being in touch with all these aspects of ourselves with integrity, bringing that integral part of all of who we are into what's going on. Sometimes we can get lost in the feelings. Sometimes our thoughts get confused. But if we're bringing the posture of our body, of our emotions, of our mind, and our thoughts in alignment with that flow or alignment with spirit, our inspiration, our intuition, we can be fully present and aware and begin to see what's happening. So in reference to this alignment process and the system that you use, how does it relate to transformation or healing directly?
That's a good question, Jim. The process of transformation itself is like, let's say that we are in isolation, out of alignment, and we have these things which you've accumulated, maybe stresses, maybe concerns. Let's think of them like stains on a shirt. You can take your shirt and you can dip it in a bucket of water, and you can mash it around in that water, but eventually that water is going to take on that stain. Whereas if you go into the river and you wash your shirt in the river, all of a sudden there's constantly a fresh flow of water coming through. That's really alignment, is tapping into the river. If we want to stay isolated, then it's like washing our clothes in a bucket of water. Eventually the water becomes, we're very familiar with the water. It's got all the things that we put in it, and nothing new is coming in and nothing old is leaving it. And so being in a state of alignment really does plug us into something much larger. It just connects us to source. And doing so in a physical way through posture, for me personally, has been the most powerful experience, because my posture, I know it's easier to watch my posture and to hold my posture true, whereas the mind is a little bit more fickle. And so holding the body posture anchors our intention physically. And then furthermore, it takes that whole process down into a physical experience. And so when you physically feel the tensions of your body melting as you breathe in the energy of spirit, which you're holding above your head or you're holding below your feet and drawing through you, it's pretty compelling.
Well, I think it's a pretty powerful analogy to use a river instead of a bucket. It's like the river of life that's constantly flowing, and the power and sometimes the force, it can be harnessed, or it can sometimes, carry us away and keep us from being able to be aware of what's going on. But immersing yourself in that flow of consciousness, awareness, connection to source allows you to arrive, where you are in that moment, and really not only be where we are, but also recognize who we are, this totality of our being showing up with whatever's going on. If we're a bit scattered, or we're not in alignment, or we're not in proper posture, or we're not paying attention, we can be kind of all over the place. But when we get into that being the river and allowing ourselves to open up into that truth of who we are and feeling that flow, we can actually feel ourselves here. I mean, we are spiritual beings, but we're having this human experience. And so the human experience and the spiritual being are not separate from one another. So it's about utilizing that connection to our higher self, our higher being, to source, and to the inner self, this innermost part of ourselves that is our heart and soul expressing itself, and bringing them together as one so that our highest self can help with our human self experience itself differently. It's really beautiful to see that balance and harmony come together with the integrity when you're in that flow.
For sure. What you said about being where you are, I think that's something that's often overlooked. We often try not to be where we are if where we are is someplace that we don't want to be. And so then if we don't have the resources to deal with where we are, then it's no wonder why we wouldn't want to be there. But if we can bring this third perspective, the third perspective outside of ourselves, beyond ourselves, then all of a sudden we can be places that are uncomfortable and recognize that something is happening as we're tapped into the river, as you say, as we're tapped into the sky and we're tapped into the earth, and we're sincerely focused on where we are, where we're tied up inside. Simply being there and allowing those energies to flow through us is quite simply, that's almost sufficient to just make the transformation happen.
Like an illumination, like the sun you were talking about, it helps us see more clearly. We're able to recognize what we weren't able to see because we were distracted by the tension or the pressure or the confusion or the situation that's going on. And we can bring our spiritual self into our human physical self. And when we begin to use this kind of a process, meditation, sitting with and looking at, rather than going from one place to another, it's sometimes not only hard to arrive where we are, but we're so frequently looking ahead, trying to figure out where we're supposed to be going and what we're supposed to be doing. Showing up right here, right now, in our physicality, in our mental, and our emotional, and our spiritual as one, it gives us an opportunity not only to see things for what they are, but we can begin to have an opportunity to choose. This
Exactly.
is where that's where the creation begins to happen. We created this by what we've been or done so far, whether we were distracted or there or not. And now we're able to bring all of who we are to something, see it for what it is, and then say, okay, is this what I want to be? This is what I want to see? Is this what I want to experience? Or do I want to bring myself to it differently, or bring myself into it and be there as the truth I know I am right now, right here? And then we have a choice to say, what next? What next?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's so embedded in us to constantly look for the outside solution, to run to the next thing. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? But we don't very often ask, how can I be here? How can I find strength right where I am, rather than